2 years ago, I clicked on a little pilot episode about a cartoon clown trapped in a digital world. When I first watched the pilot, I had no idea that by the end of it all, the Amazing Digital Circus would end up being one of the most personal pieces of media I would ever experience. I felt that since the finale is finally out, I would talk about what the show meant to me, share some of my thoughts about the finale itself, and honestly just talk about how surprisingly difficult it has been to say goodbye. Let's start with the finale. I thought it was good. I've seen some mixed reviews on it for sure, but I enjoyed it. I was expecting the entire thing to be a massive gut punch with super upsetting themes through the entire episode, but it wasn't. Episode 8 had me in shock the entire episode, so I was expecting this episode to basically be the same, but with sadness. I wouldn't say it was a perfect episode, but there's nothing in this episode I would complain about. As for the ending, again, I was expecting it to be incredibly upsetting, super sad, and I was ready to be a full-on mess of tears. And while I did cry a lot during certain points, the actual ending was less depressing and more so bittersweet. There's a lot of unanswered questions. Bubble didn't even show up in this episode, which just brings up more questions, in my opinion. But honestly, I think I'm fine with that. I don't think everything needs to be answered. The ending, in my opinion, was left open and kind of hopeful. It wasn't a definitive, we have all the answers type ending, and more of, we might can fix things type of ending. Speaking of endings, I want to talk about a theory I had posted a few months ago after episode 8 had released. I run a Tumblr blog called Turn the Screen. If you'd like to check it out, go to turnthescreen.com. I'll leave a link in the description as well. Anyway, I had a theory a few months ago basically saying that all the characters are stuck in the circus and that there is no way to escape. When Kinger was using the computer to try and stop Kane, we saw a line of code that said brain scans, which would imply that they were nothing more than just that, brain scans. That would mean that their bodies had already taken off the headset and gone off to live their lives. Well, that's exactly what happened. That theory turned out to be true. It was actually proven true right at the start of the episode. This isn't even the first time one of my theories ended up being true. But now, I'd like to shift my focus onto something a little more personal, that being Jax. I've related to a lot of characters in shows in the past, characters like Pearl or Spinell in Steven Universe, or something a little more recent would be Vox from Has Been Hotel. But I've never related to a character as strongly as I have with Jax. Like, I don't mean he's my favorite character, that actually goes to Kinger. But I mean, it genuinely felt like Gooseworks picked me up and just put me right there in the circus. Everything from his personality to even parts of his backstory felt so personal and relatable to me that honestly it was a little scary. I've told friends before that Jax and I are very similar, but until the finale I don't think I fully understood just how similar. Until we finally got to learn more about him. Seeing who he used to be, seeing his friendships with Kaufmo and Ribbit, and seeing the person hidden underneath all that sarcasm and jokes, it honestly hurt to watch because it felt so familiar. There were moments in this episode where I wasn't even thinking about Jax anymore, I was thinking about myself. Like, it's hard to express just how much Jax means to me on a personal level. Never would I expect to be this deeply touched by a funny purple rabbit. Every scene in this episode with Jax pretty much had me tearing up. Seeing Jax happy with Ribbit and Kaufmo, seeing Jax and Pomni hug and talking, seeing Jax saying his final never mind. Everything, it just felt way too personal to me. The ending especially. At this point, you can probably assume Jax abstracted. But it was different. Unlike the other abstractions, he wasn't thrown into the cellar. Instead, everyone in the circus built a big tent so he would be able to stay near them. But also be able to stay in darkness, since darkness helps keep the abstractions calm. They all care for Jax, they still consider him a friend, so they kept him close even after he abstracted, and that honestly means a lot. To me, The Amazing Digital Circus wasn't just another animated series. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it stressed me out like nothing else did. And yet somehow, through one purple rabbit, it made me feel understood in a way no other story ever has. So with that, I want to say thank you to Gooseworks, thank you to Glitch, and thank you to the Amazing Digital Circus.